Hello everyone, welcome back to YouTube. I haven't been here in a long time, but really I was just going through a stage where I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go with my online presence. And really what it boiled down to is I want to try to stay away from the traps of getting into video games, because that's really not a huge part of my life. But however, there is a big part of my life that I really do want to get back into, and that is animation. So if you don't know me personally, I have a great love for animation, both on the creative side and on the viewing side. And one of the things that gets brought up to me when they hear like, oh, you're an animator, people tend to think like, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Can I show you this? Take a look at this animation. And oftentimes they're met with a, not bad. And it's kind of a funny thing for me to get that reaction from people, because they're always expecting like, oh my word, this blew my mind. I've never seen animation this great before, because for them, it's something that really stands out. So I want to take some time today and perhaps make a series out of this, where I can take animation that is shown to me, referenced to me, given to me in one way or another, take a look at it critically through the eyes of the 12 principles of animation. If you do not know what the 12 principles of animation are, there they go. And those might merit an entire video on themselves. So what we are going to be looking at today is anime fight scenes. Except for our first example, which comes from Western animation, everything that we see is going to be coming from an anime proper. What defines an anime is different for every person, but I'm going to categorize it as it was made in Asia. We'll just go with that. So our first example is what I like to use as the gold standard. When I'm teaching animation, especially in regards to TV, not everyone has movie budgets, but TV is a little more attainable. This is what I hold as the gold standard, which is The Legend of Korra. So the reason I choose The Legend of Korra as my gold standard is because I truly don't think there will ever be a show as beautifully animated in 2D like this ever again. There are kind of rumors of another Avatar series going around, but if it's not made in 3D, I will be genuinely surprised. But immediately we're already seeing some really good secondary action coming through, even in TV animation, where you really have to try to make things as, you know, not to say cheap, but as cheaply as possible. You're not afforded the grace of time and money. It's incredible to see just the level of detail put into every single piece of, you know, background, every character, and not just the character's main movements, but their secondary action. The hair, the limbs, every single droplet of water is accounted for there. You know, even repeated frames as that water was gushing through, even repeated frames are unique enough that it doesn't look repeated. There are more than 3 frames to cycle through. Smear frames when appropriate. Man. Like I said, there's a reason why I use The Legend of Korra as my gold standard. But I really appreciate the choreography. Anytime that Mako and Bolin are on the screen together, you know it's going to be a visual treat. Even just leaning in, his shoulders move with him. It's not the cheating, which I'll get into a little bit here later. It truly is something to behold. So I will pause this one for what it's worth. And really that's what we're looking at. That's, again, maybe not the greatest of all time. I would love to be shown a TV show that's more beautifully handcrafted than The Legend of Korra. I would love to see it. You guys have one that's more beautifully crafted and well animated. Let me know in the comments, because dang, this sets the standard for me, and I would love to see more like it. So what I've got as my remaining 3 are all suggestions that were brought in to me, saying, take a look at this, take a look at this one, you're gonna love this one. And the first one that I have is from One Piece. So I was actually told look for, just do a Google search for One Piece Gear 4. I'm like, got it, I can do Gear 4. When I searched YouTube for Gear 4 and just kind of scrubbed through the clips, this is more or less the first time I'm really seeing them in action, more than just scrubbing through the clip, making sure it's the right thing. I couldn't find animation that I actually thought was done well, but I did find tangentially Gear 5 happened to have some really appealing animation. So I'll take a look at this. I might pause a couple of times through just to really analyze it, and we'll talk about some of the principles of animation as they come up. So right off the bat, we're seeing a lot of visual stylization, and that's something that we will see recurring throughout anime. We're getting our cheating in right away, no problem there. But this is what really brought me in were these scenes here. I thought this was done pretty darn well. So we're not seeing a ton of follow through, which is usually what I look for right away when I'm looking for handcrafted animation, because that one is not needed. That principle of animation is not needed per se. But it is what makes things really shine. I haven't seen a ton of it so far, but that's not to say it doesn't exist. Actually, perfect example. I just saw it. As his leg comes down, we get to see this ripple effect. So not only do we get some squash and stretch, but it actually follows through. Let's put this in slow motion real quick. As it comes through, we get to see that ripple as it goes through his leg. I don't know what his leg is made out of, but man, that is stylized and beautiful. We get some really good exaggeration here in the face. And let's just continue in 0.5 speed. Really take a look at this. Good arcs, absolutely following through these arcs. Everything here is beautifully done in these great arcs. Yeah, tons of exaggeration, very stylized. We get to see certain frames, maybe not necessarily smear frames, we just saw some earlier though. But we did see some frames where they're definitely in-betweens and they were not made by the key animators, which again is absolutely fine. I really liked this piece of animation. My first point that I will always make when it comes to anime is anime knows how to cheat. They know how to cheat really, really well. 90% of everything that comes out of Japan is animation. And that's not to say that they are bad at animation or that it's cheaply done. Sometimes it is very cheaply done. Sometimes you get a show like this that pays a little more attention, but they still know how to cheat and cheat really well. One of the things I tell my students is that cheat whenever you can. And anime is a great example of how you can cheat. One of the ways that anime cheats quite a bit is they will have stationary characters with a moving background, or moving characters slowly scaling in as the background scales a little slower, a little parallax effect, where the only thing that's moving is their mouth. We get like 2 frames movement there, 3 frames movement before he sits still, and the only thing moving is his mouth. Very easy to cheat, not necessarily a detriment. Legend of Korra does it too. I'm not going to say that they're not doing it, even though I praise them as the gold standard. But it's very, very prevalent in Japanese animation, in anime. It's very prevalent to see this kind of cheating. And what they do with it is become stylized. Stylization is not the opposite of proper animation. It is just a different path. Again, maybe that's another video to talk about someday. But stylization is really where beauty is held inside of animation. Doesn't always mean that it's done well, but they recognize what materials they're working with. They recognize their time limitations, their staff limitations, and they realize that in order to get visual appeal that we want, we need to make some shortcuts. But the number one principle of animation that anime generally tends to fall into and rely heavily on is appeal. Appeal is very subjective. There's not really a black and white answer to it, but that idea of stylization directly applies into this principle of appeal. How appealing something is very clearly appealing to all viewers, whether you like the context or not. Very appealing to watch, very fun, very entertaining. But it can also hide a lot of wrong that we might see later on, maybe. I haven't seen the other two yet, so let's get into them. So the second one, I was told to search Levi cart chase, and this is what I came into. This one's 5 minutes, so I might just play it at full speed. Okay. We'll cut to different sections. But one of the first things I'll say, so again, we're cheating, we're getting like repeated sparks, a lot of cheating here, simple 3-frame motion, but I think the main character is going to be the draw here. And if I were to guess, I'm going to guess that we see a lot of 3D animation. And immediately, yep, we're seeing a lot of 3D, which at this point, we can make 3D look as 2D as possible. And it is pretty well done. As an animator, I can see immediately when it happens. Yeah, very quick motion here. Which is interesting, there's not actually a lot of motion blur. Which to me is interesting. Because with those 3D elements, it would actually look a lot more realistic to the human eye and less stylized if we were to have motion blur on these quick moving backgrounds, and we're not seeing a ton of it. A lot of fast-paced action, a lot of unique frames, which is something that you don't often see inside of anime. We'll get repeated frames like this right here, where it's very quick, it's repeatable. We're getting some great scenes of live nothingness, which is maybe it's the proper term, maybe there's a term that exists for it. This is what I teach. This live nothingness is we have moments where there's nothing happening. However, we have a visual audience. We need to capture our viewers' attention. And how do we do that? Well, we create scenes like this coming one, where nothing's happening, but we're giving the camera slight movement. Maybe some parallax effect, maybe the background's moving faster than the foreground. But there's not anything happening other than dialogue. It's easy to make an illustration. It's very cheap to make an illustration and zoom out. Very, very cheap, very cost effective to make. And when you're making TV animation, not to downplay it, but cheap is the answer 9 times out of 10 when it comes to TV animation. The more you can do beforehand, get things prepped. That's why 3D animation for kids television, 3D motion capture is used all the time, because it is quick and dirty and easy to just have someone stand in the back room, pop on a suit, get that motion capture, and then your episode's done. You have very minimal animator interaction. Same thing with illustration and anime. It's a very similar approach. And they basically say, hey, illustrate me this scene, and that's the entire scene as far as animation goes. Or it's the entire scene, but we're just gonna make his mouth change shape a little bit. And that's the whole scene. That's all of it. So we'll see this live nothingness again and again inside of anime. Again, not a bad thing, but it is a very cost-effective way to get your idea across without just putting a picture on the screen. So we'll jump forward to this final one here. This one does feature some blood and violence from what I saw. I guess the last one did too, but this one more so. This one was very flashy. Some quick loops, Again, cheating with the mouth, chin's not even moving there. Not a bad thing. A lot of cheating in this show though. We got these action frames. It's like, guys, motion's happening. Motion's happening, guys. Trust me. Even when it's not. We get these quick little blurs of animation to show we got some 3D animation there, which is, again, just a lot faster to make than hand-drawn 2D animation or computer-drawn 2D animation. But this show, at least looking at it right now, looks like they really know how to cheat. Cheating is great. Cheating helps you cut costs, save time, but by utilizing things like 3D animation right there, or by having just a mouth moving on a character in the background who's talking, really making your actions fast. That's another way to cheat, is have quick motions. We saw it just a second ago. Make your movements very, very quick. He had a quick spin before slowing down. And yeah, we can say it's a stylized approach, and it absolutely is a stylized approach to animation, but it also makes it very cheap and easy to make. If we have 4 frames of dynamic poses that go by in an instant, we can register, thanks to these lines, these effect lines, we can register all the effects that happen, all these movements that happen very, very quickly before slowing down and pausing on just a handful of hand-drawn frames that blur in between. It can be done in a very cheap and cost-effective way that appears in a stylized format. From everything I'm seeing so far, this is like a masterpiece in cheating. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of follow-through here. Things tend to just kind of slow down. And not even a lot of exaggeration, which is strange. That's oftentimes one of the ones that anime really excels at, is this exaggerated sense of motion. Ooh, that head movement is not good. Oh no, she got her head cut off. It all checks out. I don't think her head's connected right now. If it is connected, it's bad. If it's not connected, you're fine. A little bit of follow through on the earrings there, good to see. Some secondary action seen with hair, but I guess that's kind of par for the course when it comes to anime, is they really like their hair. And this is likely one of their most expensive scenes, just from looking at the production value, seeing that it's a highlighted clip. This is probably a very expensive scene to animate. And genuinely speaking, I'm not even seeing a lot of arcs in the movement. It's very much a pose to pose with very, very few in-betweens. We got some 3D animation done there as well, mixed in. That one was pretty blatant, that is 3D. That one's pretty garish. But I think we'll pause there for today. So really when it comes down to it, every TV show is going to cheat one way or another. TV shows do not have the budget, the time, the resources that movies do. So I like to look at TV animation for what you can realistically accomplish without having $1 million budget. And so this is what we're looking at. And we saw a handful of the good, the bad, the ugly. We didn't really see any ugly or any bad today. We did see a lot of cheating in all 4 of our examples, even coming back here. So that was a drawing. Now granted, they did more than just zoom out. They actually rotated that entire image as well, with a little bit of parallax between the foreground and the background. So it's not just one-step cheating like we saw in the Attack on Titan clip. But it was multiple steps. It's still an illustration at the end of the day. There's absolutely cheating going on all around the spectrum of TV and movies. They recycle footage all the time. We see a lot of cheating, and where I'll leave it at today is, what kind of topic do you want me to cover next? I think I would really love to get into this series of different animation critiques. As we went over anime fight scenes today, I'm sure there will be plenty more in the comments. But what other topics would you like me to touch on? Would be video game animation, TV animation, anything in between. We'll probably stay away from movies unless it's a highly specific topic. But But this was a lot of fun, and I would like to give more insight to you guys as I restructure and focus more on animation as a channel. That's all I've got for today. I would love to see you guys in the future. Make sure to subscribe so you can come back to this channel. I'll see you in the next video, Biscuit Heads.